we are gathered here today to mourn the loss of the UFC women's featherweight division. Well, gang, we're here. We're wearing black for the funeral of the 145-pound division for the women in the UFC. We're wearing black. You can only see us from the waist up. I'm wearing black shorts. Tiz actually didn't wear pants. He said that he didn't have any black pants, and so I figured, it doesn't matter. We're sitting at the table, so it's not like people are going to see that anyway. And I opened my front door and he's just there in a black Speedo, and I'm honestly kind of glad that you guys can't see it.
So, yeah, it's for the best. It's for the best. Yeah. That's all we deliver on this channel. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know.
Disappoint, but
we don't have an HR department, but if we did, I'd probably report you to them, just because of the experience that I've had today. But anyway, let's get into the fights. So. In the main event of UFC 289, pretty fun card, I'd say, overall. The main event was kind of lackluster, but some big things happened. So Amanda Nunes defeated Aldana by a dominant unanimous decision, 2 50-44s and a 50-43. And I guess before we get into Amanda Nunes retiring, because that's obviously a huge story, we'll talk about the fight, because I feel like this won't be as long of a conversation. But Amanda Nunes just looked dominant in all facets of MMA in this one. She looked faster on the feet, stronger in the grappling, and I don't know. I think definitely the nerves and the respect that Aldana had for Nunes probably had something to do with it. But at the same time, I think Nunes was just locked in last night, and I don't know, man. I think she's one of the greatest fighters of all time, and I think one of the conversations that we'll get into when we talk about her legacy and her retirement is she's definitely the female GOAT, but does she have a case for GOAT in general? We can debate that in a second, but what did you think of the fight itself before we get into that?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much summed it up. It's kind of typically what you get with the Amanda Nunes fight anyways, just straight domination, pillar to post, but, for this to be her very last fight too, to go out on top like that, I mean, it doesn't happen in the sport, so, yeah, obviously, women's greatest of all time, but even, even just, including the males too, dude, she's, yeah, man, it would, I think you'd be remiss to just, leave out, just straight up just leave her name out of that conversation, I think it's just silly, honestly, now, so here we are, I mean,
isn't it crazy that her,
it felt like it was coming, they're just so unexpected, even if you feel that they're gonna happen one way or another, but
right,
they still just catch you completely by surprise.
I mean, especially after a performance like that, where she just dominated completely and looked and it felt like we were gonna see a build up for a Pena 3 fight, but then it just didn't happen, and Amanda Nunes retired, as we just said. And I mean, just to rattle off a couple things on her resume real quick before we get into it, just because she's truly been, what's the word? She's fought in a lot of different promotions. She fought in Invictus. She comes from Strikeforce, so she has a legit background. I mean, she beat Julia Budd in Strikeforce, so that's pretty good. But in the UFC, I mean, she won the title by rear naked choke and Miesha Tate. Knocked out Ronda Rousey in 48 seconds, beat Valentina Shevchenko twice. We had that one fight with Pennington. I was talking to someone about this yesterday when I was watching the fight. Amanda Nunes has had girls in there to consider quitting mid-fight because of the power that she has, and we've seen that at 145 too. in her insane knockout of Chris Cyborg, and then ragdolling like Felicia Spencer and Megan Anderson. Like Amanda Nunes' resume is unbelievable, and she's been around forever. So as you kind of said, like I think to leave her name out of the GOAT conversation would be like just messed up. And I don't know, like because like I said, I think it's John Jones right now, and you know him and GSP are right up there. But like Amanda Nunes, I think is top 3, and you could argue for even number 1. I think, but I don't know. It's tough to say that though, honestly, because some of her competition towards the end wasn't really like up to snuff, I guess. And if you look at like John Jones and GSP's resumes, but I don't know. What do you kind of think of it?
I don't think there will be another Amanda Nunes. So there you go.
That's a fair way to put it. I don't feel the need to elaborate on that. But putting Amanda Nunes aside now because you know, this division's going to move on. Well, except 145. Rest in peace. I mean, dude, can we... Yeah, we'll talk about that real quick. I mean, like, that division was made in 2017 for Chris Cyborg because they wanted her versus Ronda Rousey. The fight never ended up happening. Cyborg just couldn't get to 135. So then you're left with this division with no contenders. It was the only division that we've had with no rankings. Amanda had only defended the title a couple times, and it was, like, very sporadically. So... I still give her the double champ stuff because I mean she knocked out Cyborg for that belt. Like that can't go, like you know what I mean. Like you could say what you want about the title defenses, but Chris Cyborg is probably number 2 in the GOAT conversation for women's MMA, and Amanda Nunes just ran through her. So I think that has something to, like that impacts her legacy a lot, at least to me. Even though 145 was just kind of like there and gone at this point, and. I don't know. I think it's a good thing, though. That's going to happen. I think 135 is going to be better off, too, because one of the things I was thinking about, and it's early to think about this, but who fights for the vacant title? I think the almost no-brainer could be Juliana Pena versus Raquel Pennington, number 1 versus number 2. What do you think of that?
I mean, you can't, like... yeah, man. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of just, like, to me, kind of difficult now to like just put as much stock into that like I don't know. I don't think really, you know, anybody in in those rankings right now is like can, you know, string together like a title defense that could come even close to Amanda Nunes. Honestly, I think now it's kind of a division, kind of like light heavyweight. I mean, ironically enough, light heavyweight just lost their GOAT, so now women's bantamweight loses their GOAT, and now you have all this.
Is that a bad thing, though? Because, I mean, we've talked about this with light heavyweight. Now we actually have title fights that we could look forward to because, like, we don't know who's going to win, or, like, we don't have a good idea of it, at least, because, you know, any fight can end in any way, really. But... I don't know, like, I kind of like this in a way because Amanda, like I said, she's the female GOAT. You could argue she's in the GOAT conversation, like I said, in total. But now that she's gone, women's, like, 135 kind of has, like, room to breathe. And now we have, like, like you kind of just said, like, you know, the title defenses, there may not be as many in a row, but still now the division has, like, some parity in it. Like, there's all these people in the top 10 that I think could hold a title, and that's kind of exciting to me because now, like I'll admit it, like when I was looking into this fight or into this fight card like during the week, it was tough to get excited for because you kind of like knew Amanda Nunes was probably gonna do what she ended up doing, probably not to the extent, but like I definitely thought she was gonna win, but. Besides the Oliveira Dariush fight, this fight card wasn't like huge in terms of name value. You could tell it was like made for the Canadian fans, like in person. But either way, man, I just think that this will open things up a little bit more, and maybe like we'll get some exciting beefs or fights in the future because of it, and that's what I'm hoping at least. But you know, Amanda Nunes' career is over, and that's it. So I'm just gonna move on to the co-main event now. With Charles Oliveira defeating Beneil Dariush in round 1 by TKO. That was a fun fight, honestly. I mean, dude, Dude Bronx is just a marauder. Like, it's crazy how this dude like can overcome adversity in almost every single one of his fights. Like Dariush's top control, like I kind of saw that coming a little bit, but the way Oliveira was able to spring up and just hit him like teeps, punches, body kicks, and then the head kick to finish it off, man. Like this dude's unbelievable. It's crazy how high he's risen in this sport, especially after some of the lows of his career. Man, what did you think of Charles Oliveira's win? I feel bad for Beneil Dariush, though. I do feel the need to say that because he made that look easy, and Dariush is a dog, dude.
Yeah, this was like an interesting, an interesting card in a sense. Like these the these two main events, just straight domination from. I mean, coming into this fight, I mean, I would think that odds makers and stuff had to have this fight between Dariush and Charles Oliveira to probably swaying throughout fight week and stuff, back and forth, probably pretty close and stuff.
I know Oliveira was an underdog coming in very slightly.
Wow. Well, see, there you
Yeah,
there
so
you
you're
go.
right. You're
Right
right.
there,
I do
dude.
want to
It's
tell you that.
how for now we're gonna talk about Oliveira, who's just completely. It's so just crazy how fast the fight game works. Cause dude, he was literally just lightweight champion, on top of the world. Nobody could touch him seemingly, and now. He loses it one loss. That's really all.
Well, if you think of it, he lost it on the scale. He didn't lose it to Makhachev. That's people kind of forget that because obviously
right. Yeah,
he fought.
There you go.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it that he didn't technically lose the belt to anybody, but I don't. And Dana said after the card was over that he's excited to make that rematch. And dude, I honestly wasn't expecting that because I was talking to someone about it yesterday, and it just didn't seem like Oliveira did well enough in the first fight that Dana would want to have a second one. But I guess after a win like that, you put on a show, man. I mean, that was awesome seeing him in the cage. The Canadian crowd was cheering so loud for him. He was crying. Dude, that man is incredible. He's probably one of the most exciting fighters in UFC history. If we really gotta narrow it down, I think he has the record for the most bonuses, 19, I think, or 20. But
yeah,
man, this dude is unreal. It's crazy the rise that this dude's had since some of his losses. He had never won a fight in Canada, which is kind of crazy to think about too. So he got that monkey off his back too. But who knows, man? We might be seeing him fight for the title. I think that lightweight is in an interesting spot right now because Volk is still in the picture kind of because of that Islam fight being so close. You have the BMF fight with Poirier versus Gaethje, which me and you have talked about. I personally, this is my theory, so if this happens, you guys heard it here first. My theory is that the BMF belt in this fight is to lure Nate Diaz back to the UFC after the Jake Paul fight because he's expressed interest in coming back. I don't know if the Conor fight would be the first one to do it for him. And I feel like this fight will set up a BMF champion, and then Nate will fight the winner of this one because that could be a headliner of a pay-per-view.
Dude, the thing is though, with lightweight, obviously there's no shortage of great fights in that division, but in terms of guys that are gonna actually, apart from outside of Charles Oliveira, obviously, that are gonna actually rival Islam Makhachev for the title, and really give it to him in there maybe for all 5 rounds or not, but it's more the bottom half of the division, I'd say, to really keep an eye out for. And obviously lightweight isn't the easiest division to get your foot in through the door, but
right.
Guys are coming, and this division, dude, lightweight just seemingly is always the deepest division, whatever kind of fight you need from it. I'd say with lightweight and featherweight, pretty much the two, obviously two closest divisions right by each other. So I think those fights, they just bring out so many different kinds of exciting fights and matchups. And yeah, dude, you got Makhachev obviously at the top, and Charles Oliveira just showed absolutely no signs of, you know, decline after his title reign, and it's exciting. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And like we still don't even know if Connor versus Chandler is going to happen. I mean, that could still be something that's in the works. I mean, we don't really know. I don't want to talk too much about it, but that's there too. But we'll see, man. I mean, I'd be interested if Oliveira got the rematch versus Islam Makhachev. Not sure if it really goes any differently, to be honest, but I would be hyped for it. I definitely would never count Oliveira out, especially after this last fight, because
Yeah.
like I kind of alluded to, I feel like we haven't touched on it enough.
I don't know.
Like,
Everyone has that one guy that probably just has their number, and you know, like
it's a bad style matchup. It's just the strength. Like he kind of shuts down what Oliveira does so well, and that's kind of what like I kind of want to talk about this before we move on. Like Beneil Dariush, like he made that look easy, but Dariush is a killer, man. Like he was right up against the title shot right there, and like you could argue that he deserved it anyway before this fight, and the top control early.
That's
showed
exactly
it.
what I mean. What I'm referring to when I say like a division like lightweight is not easy to get your foot into the door like at all. And then you look at a guy like Beneil Dariush who
You got
for
to feel for him.
years one of the division's top fighters, and now you know he gets as close as he's probably ever been, and you know he gets whooped. So yeah, I do feel bad for him. I don't know what's really next to come.
I feel like he'll kind of get back into it. Like he's a fighter's fighter in the sense like he
Yeah.
wants to fight the best in the world. So I feel like once an opportunity presents itself, I mean he just fought, so it's not going to happen soon. But we'll see what happens when he gets back in the cage. But on to the next one. So Mike Malott, am I saying that right? Malott. But
Mike Malott.
I'll go Malott then. But dude, we knew that was probably gonna happen, like, cause the Canadian crowd. I mean, they were setting a lot of those guys up for success. But dude, like right off the bat, the body kicks, his timing, like that dude's incredible. We knew that he was a pretty good prospect before this, and I don't know exactly like what this proves because he's a decent opponent, but I'm intrigued to see Malott move up because his striking and his grappling, like he's just good all around. That's kind of like what interests me about him, and he's at welterweight, which is another stacked division. But I don't know if you had like any thought because this was a pretty quick one, so I don't know if you had many thoughts on this. The guillotine was pretty slick.
I think it's another exciting name here. Like dude. Like you know, you kind of just like in the sample you got from this fight. Like if he can maintain that cardio and that burst with that power, like I think he's gonna be just fine. So, like, and then like you know, just don't get fit because I think he's gonna. I think this is the first of many finishes for him. So,
yeah, man.
Yeah,
he's
this
insane.
guy that they're gonna want to obviously push, but
good on the mic too. Like you like a dude who
too.
could talk. You know what I mean? Promote the fights. So I think the UFC is definitely gonna get behind him because he's a charismatic dude, and I mean that fighting style. How could you not be excited when you see his name on there? And then speaking of that too, like just getting excited about different names like Dan Ige and Nate the Train Landwehr. That was a fight I was excited about when I saw it on the card. I would say it didn't live quite up to expectations just because like Dan Ige really kind of had Nate's number, but Nate the Train's a tough SOB, man. You could see it, but he kind of took a step back in this one just because Dan Ige honestly just seemed to have, like you were talking before about guys having someone's number. It just seemed like he was a step ahead in every facet in this one, and it sucks because Nate the Train's exciting, but this one just seemed like he was running into Dan Ige's left hooks as like every round it seemed like, and he looked a little hesitant after that first knockdown.
Yeah, which is fine. It's nice to see Nate Landwehr get a fight like this, anyways. Like this soon to into his UFC tenure. So I've like. Yeah, like I think I think kind of goes without saying. I'd say like I think he's on his way to becoming a fan favorite if he isn't already, and but yeah, I think he'll be all right. There's no shame in losing to a name like Dan Ige, but And yeah, like it's encouraging to see him actually like get through the fight too and not get finished. So like there you go. But
I mean,
yeah,
Danny Ige, some of those shots that he was hitting him with, those would put a lot of featherweights out. Nate's just built different, it seems like. And I mean, he was hitting Ige with some good shots back too, but just not enough. Like he was behind in every round. Like he was playing. Yeah, it was rough. It was a little bit rough. I don't know. I thought that he might look a little better. Because like I said, I think the knockdown in the first round kind of made him a lot more hesitant than he usually is. Because it's been a minute since you've seen him get hit like that.
Yeah.
So good on Danny Ige though, man. I mean, he's a guy who you always got to keep your eye on at featherweight, just because like, I mean, we've talked about well-rounded fighters. He's got good wrestling, insane hands. So we'll see what's next for both guys, but I'm excited for both of them. And then besides that, on the main card, it was just Baralt versus Anders, that one fight of the night. That was a pretty good fight, but like, I mean, I don't know. There's not too much to talk about, like, besides how good of a fight it was. It was a fun way to start off the main card. So the matchmakers knew what they were doing with that. But then we get into the prelims. This was a fight that I was kind of upset wasn't on the main card, but I guess looking back, it kind of, wasn't too bad in the long run that it wasn't. It was Chris Curtis versus Nasruddin Imavov.
Oh, yeah.
It sucks, man, that this one had to end the way that it did with the headbutt. I mean, Imavov looked good while the fight was, going on, but that southpaw versus orthodox, it just leads to more head clashes, and this one just sucked. Like, the cut was in a bad spot. People keep, like, saying on social media, too, I just kind of want to point this out in case people don't know. A lot of people think it got stopped because of the cut. It got stopped because he couldn't open his eye. Like, because the blood was, like, dripping into it right from his eyelid. So I don't think it was the cut as much as it was the blood that was causing him to not be able to see, and it just made him compromised. I mean, when you're wiping your eye on Jason Herzog's sleeve, like, you can't. Like, you literally can't start the fight over again after that. Like, it just looks too terrible. And the doctors were very non-committal. They were like, I mean, he's technically fine, but if you can't see. So it's unfortunate, though, for Chris Curtis, because, I mean, this is the second straight fight that a headbutt has popped up for him. I mean, the Gastelum one resulted in a loss. At least this one was the no contest. But you got to feel for him, man. So sucks for both guys. I don't know if this one will... I don't think this one will be rescheduled. We'll just move on for both of them. But the prelims were pretty good besides that. I mean, Jasmine... All right, dude. I was saying this yesterday. I'm just starting to get the fucking Russian names. And then we get Jasmine Jasuda... Do you know how to say it? Yeah, okay.
No.
I almost want to, like... I'm literally going to look up the interview of, like, after the fight. It's Jasmine, like... I listened to it on the broadcast yesterday, but I didn't write it down. Because I wanted to. I didn't want to, like, have to do this during the pod. But I can't just say her name wrong. But she whooped Miranda Maverick, dude. I mean, her wrestling is incredible. Her pace is insane. Let me see if I can get this stuff. All right. I don't think audio will get us copyrighted. Jasu Vicious. That's what I'm gonna. All right, I'm gonna call her Jasmine. So she had some pretty good grappling in this one, man. I mean, Miranda Maverick. It sucks because she's a good fighter too, but she's been up against it with the matchmakers lately. It seems like with Blanchfield, and you got this fight too now. But man, we got another prospect at women's 125. I mean, this is another person who I could see going far in this division because she's good all around. I mean, her grappling's incredible, but then her pace, dude, like, she was putting it on Miranda Maverick. I mean, she didn't give her a chance to breathe. So I was just impressed with her performance. And then, like, besides that, like, Ayman Zahavi had a pretty good knockout. And then the last one I really wanted to talk about, did you get a chance to see Steven Erceg versus David Dvorak, dude? I mean, it's a crazy thing that this dude came in on 10 days' notice. I think David Dvorak was ranked number 10. Might be number 8. I don't know.
I did hear that, that narrative.
Yeah, number 10, I was right. So, he came in, I mean, dude, his pace, we were just talking about this with Jasmine. I mean, this guy's pace is incredible. he was walking David Dvorak down the whole fight. David was doing good like when he was at a distance, but besides that, like, and the thing is, like, he wasn't at a distance for long enough. I think the biggest thing was that Urseg was able to just like manage range well and just get in his face and change levels constantly to keep him guessing. And yeah, man, this is just a guy to keep your eye on. His head movement's a bit questionable. I did think this was like a favorable matchup for him, but besides that, I mean, good on him. Beating a top 10 guy in your UFC debut on that short of notice, that's bound to give you some cred with the company. So we'll see what's next for Steven Urseg. But all in all, decent card. Not the best pay-per-view, I'd say, but not the worst. So we'll see what happens with UFC 290 because that one's looking stacked. But next week we got Vettori versus Cannonier. That's shaping up to be a fun one, so we'll talk about that next week. See y'all.